Hello, welcome back to Oliver's Greenhouse. It's been ages since I've done a video. It's been well over a week, so I thought it was overdue and time to come and do something. We've got the obligatory beer in hand. Tonight's usually my orchid watering night tonight, and in some of the previous videos I complained about how late it is by the time I get back, how dark it is. By the time I put the kids to bed, I basically go to work in the dark, come home in the dark. So there's lots of really exciting things going on in the greenhouse. I can really only view them in basically pitch black. So what I thought I'd do is we're going to basically do a repotting video today. So we're going to repot one of the Bulbophyllums. We'll also have a look at my Gomesa orchid, because it's really cramped in this little pot now, and I think it's well over time, well overdue for a repot. So we'll probably repot that guy. So really simple little video today. We're just going to be having a chat, having a repot, and having a look at some of the orchids. But for a bit of a laugh, what I thought I'd do is I'd take you guys to the greenhouse to see the greenhouse how I see it every night when I get back. Like I said, I was going to do watering tonight. I just put the kibosh on that. I can't really be bothered, so I'll do that tomorrow. I'm away for the weekend, so I want to make sure I get everything nice and drenched before I go away. But just give you an idea of so I finished for the evening now. I've got some spare time. It's about 8:05, and I'll pick you guys up and we'll go out and have a look at the greenhouse. Okay, so here we are outside. This is my usual view in the evenings. There goes the floodlight. So what I've got is a floodlight out the back here, which sort of illuminates the route towards the greenhouse. But this is pretty much my view of an evening until I walk out here. And the floodlight turns back on again. So pretty drear, English weather, winter's here, it's nice and dark, the weather's supposed to be turning to rubbish this weekend, so we've got lots of rain, lots of wind turning up, so yeah, welcome to British winter time basically. Let's go and have a look in the greenhouse and we'll see what we can or can't see. Okay, so here we have it. This is the greenhouse. This is the view that greets me in the evening. Everything's dark. All the fan timers are off. You can only hear the drone of the nighttime heater, the little daytime heater, which is about there. That's on a little timer that comes on during the day just to pick the temperature up to about 21, 22 degrees. But very dark. No lighting in here. A complete oversight by myself. Next year I'm going to put a light in so that I can actually see something at night. And also when we do these videos we can see something together. But we have got a nice little can of flour just in front of the camera here to sort of greet me on the way in. Okay, so here we have it, nighttime greenhouse. Oliver's greenhouse at night. This is what it looks like basically when I come in here. So usually it's a case of watering things. I try and get all the orchids off down on the floor, because obviously it's a granular floor, and if I'm feeding them I just literally drench them. I just go all over them. Give them a good watering. The carnivorous plants get a similar sort of treatment. They tend to just top up the trays in which they're sat. But it's a shame over here that the Brassia is out, the Oncidium's still flowering. Bulbophyllum fascinator is super close to being out. I'm very excited about that. It's going to be fascinating. Excuse the pun. And there's lots of things. My little Stellis orchid has produced a flower spike. And also my Isabelia is this close to opening its first couple of flowers, so there's lots of super cool things going on, but you just can't see anything, which is highly irritating. Out of the gloom emerges my lovely Brassia Chieftain, looking stunning at the moment, really taking on a lovely colour, but completely lost in the darkness. Everything takes on a really ethereal, unusual sort of appearance. I like to pretend it's night time in the green forest, and the green forest is partially made of aluminium and bubble wrap. So you've got to have a pretty good imagination, but you kind of catch the drift. If I pan down over this side as well, Drosera Schisandra's looking stunning, super dewy. Let's pick it up, it'll look almost like it's glowing in this light. Yeah, amazing, super cool. Oliver's greenhouse in the darkness, featuring carnivorous plants from Western Australia. Today what we're going to be doing is, if we pan over this side, I'll just focus you back in so we can see stuff. There's Oncidium ornithorhynchum, or actually that's been wrongly identified. It has another name now, but it evades my mind at the moment. Have a pan back over this side. The Bulbophyllum that there's all the mounted orchids up on the wall up there, up in the darkness. The Epidendrum that you guys voted on. up there on the wall in the darkness. Well, as I pick you guys up and we'll have a look at the orchids we're going to be working with tonight. Okay, so this is the Bulbophyllum grandiflorum we're going to be working with today. It's got a couple of new growths emerging on it. It's sort of poking out of the pot a little bit now, so I thought it would be well overdue. What we're going to do, quite a few people have been asking about my tray, saucer, orchid growing planters, whatever you want to call them. So we're going to pop this guy up into one of those. Also, move this guy out of the way and pick the other orchid up. We're going to be repotting my little Gomesa orchid as well, because it's in a tiny little pot. It's all starting to poke out. There's lots of new growth. It's coming right up against the edge of the plant pot, so it's well overdue for a repot. So it's these two that we're going to be using today. Now the floodlight's gone off outside, we are completely in the darkness. So I probably get about 2 minutes worth of light in here before all the light's gone and you're just submerged in darkness. I've taken on a bit of a new delivery as well. Over the other side of the greenhouse in the darkness, we've got like 100 litres of perlite. I've also got some new moss and I've got some grow stone as well. So we're going to be using some of that media in today's potting video. And just out of interest, this is what the greenhouse looks like when the floodlight goes out. It's like the black hole of Calcutta in here. Okay, so let's have a quick chat about some of the things you're going to need, well, what I'm going to be using for the purpose of this video. First of all, a mixing bowl to put the media in to mix it up. We've got a little Gomesa orchid, still in flower. This thing just flowers constantly. In this case, obviously the Bulbophyllum orchid we're going to be repotting. This is one of the terracotta pots that we actually made together. If you remember my video where I showed you how to make these holes in these terracotta pots, and I did the bloopers at the end, which basically had me skittering all over the bloody thing with the drill bit and showing you how not to do it. That went down really well, that video. If not, if you haven't seen it, there should be a card popping up in the video about now. Please feel free to go and watch it. I'll show you how to make these orchid friendly pots super cheap. This isn't a particularly good one, but it was outside looking sad, getting a bit weather worn, so I thought we'd use this one for the purpose of the video anyway. I'm just going to give it a quick wash under some hot water or out the kettle just to sort of sterilise and get any of the gunk off of it. So yeah, go and watch that video. It will show you how to make these things very cheaply out of existing clay pots. I'm going to be using one of these clear plant bowls, basins, trays, dishes, whatever you want to call them. You can get these from most garden centres. Make sure you get the clear ones. Remember, we're dealing with epiphytic orchids, so they like to get a bit of light to their roots. These are ideal for this job. And we're going to be drilling some holes in the bottom of this. Something to hang it up. One of these plant pot hangers, these little plastic plant pot hangers. You can get these off of eBay. They're super cheap, they don't cost a lot at all. And they're excellent because they just clip over the side. There's plenty of, it's like a really good way of saving room in the greenhouse. It's easy to move the orchids around, just hang them up as and when you need to put them and move them about and stuff. So those are the first few items we're going to need. Put these guys out of the way for a minute. Make a bit of space so we can continue talking. The next thing we're going to be using, I bought some of this stuff, it's called grow stone. I got this from orchidsupplies.co.uk, and it's basically exploded recycled glass, so it's sort of eco-friendly. It's a good use for a waste product basically, but it's got lots of fine pores in it, so it holds a lot of air inside it, and it's going to keep your mix nice and fresh and aerated, so the orchids are going to really enjoy that. So we're going to be using some of that. I've got some sphagnum moss, some long fibre sphagnum moss in here. Got a big bale of this because obviously I like to use this more and more. It really cuts down on the amount of watering I need to do, especially in the hot summer as well. Even when it's hottest, I've got the humidity system in there. I probably only need to water my mounted, the custom mounted orchids sort of once a day, which is about perfect really, because the trouble with growing on things like orchids, you need to water them like 3 times a day because they just dry out so quickly. So I put lots of this in my potting media, and it really retains moisture, and you don't need to water as often, so I think this stuff's brilliant. This stuff is the Peruvian stuff, so it's not New Zealand sphagnum moss, which is like super expensive. I don't believe in spending huge amounts of money on what is essentially a platform for the orchids to grow on. I think it's just ridiculous. So wherever I can cut corners, I will do. And this stuff's cheaper. The quality is just as good. I don't see any difference between. I've used both. This seems to be exactly the same, apart from in name. So I think this is really, really good stuff. We're going to be using some of that. Classic. This is a half-empty bag of 20 litres of small perlite, so the fine stuff I use to put in my carnivorous plant mixes and stuff. And last but not least, my little secret weapon. Now this is the Pro Reps. I'm not sponsored by them, but this is just an example. Pro Reps sort of orchid bark. Because you can spend an infinitely large amount of money on orchid bark, and it's always sort of hit and miss. Sometimes some suppliers are really, really good, and you get like a really good quality grade chip. And then I've had stuff before that just seems to degrade super quickly, and it's usually really expensive. If it's got orchid written on it, it just seems to it gives them sort of like the license to just hike the prices up by a third. So this is essentially exactly the same stuff. It's meant for going in vivariums and stuff, for reptiles and stuff, and it's exactly the same product. It's gone through exactly the same screening process. It's not got salts in it, it's not got any harmful sort of bacteria and stuff in it. They've really worked to sort of like produce, because obviously people get really fussy about their iguanas, and the same way that we get fussy about our orchids. So the last thing I want to be doing is introducing a media to the bottom of the vivarium, which is going to make your animals sick. Some of these animals cost hundreds and thousands of pounds, some of them. So this is just as good. This is a 25 litre bag of it. I think it cost me like 10 quid, if that, from a local reptile centre. So it's super cheap, and I think it makes a lot more sense because you can buy it in bulk. It's cheaper. It's exactly the same product, and it hasn't got the word orchid written on it, so it costs a third less. So this is what I've been using for years. I've used it for like the last 9 years, or Pro Rep or similar sort of product, and I've had absolutely no problems at all. I've seen no difference between growing with orchid purpose made orchid bark or this reptile stuff. It's exactly the same stuff as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to be using some of that. Okay, so first of all, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make a hole in this tray, because obviously we want it to be a water retentive. These are Bulbophyllum after all. You're going to do pretty well to overwater these things, so they're like a really moisture retentive mix, but at the same time we want water to drain. We don't want it sitting in water, so we're going to make a series of holes in the bottom of this. So for that you're going to need a cordless drill or something similar. This drill's like I think this is a 6mm drill bit. So that's going to be ample. That's going to provide us enough drainage. So we're going to be drilling a few holes in the bottom of this. You're also going to need a piece of wood. Well, if you're outside, you probably get away with it. But what you don't want to be doing is you don't want to be pushing just against this, because what you do is you make it split. You want to use as little force as possible to do this. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to be placing on this piece of wood here and just gently drilling. I'm probably going to put 5 holes or something like that in the bottom of this. But it's really key, because I mean, although this is plastic and it's flexible, if you push hard with that, you're going to split it, okay? And it's just not going to be as efficient. It's not going to retain the moisture quite as well as you'd like it to. So what is, I'll pick you up, move you down here so you can have a look at what we're doing. Right, okay, like I said before, so what we're going to do is, if I just zoom in so we can have a look at the bottom of this tray. We've got the central hole. Well, this is where the moulding is finished here, so we're going to be drilling a hole there, and we're going to just basically do one opposite. Although, so we've basically got a classic sort of number 5, like on a dice shape of drainage holes, and that's going to be enough for this, because the Bulbophyllums, they love moisture. So we want to reflect that in the way we construct this, and also in the way that we create the mix that they're going to be growing in. So just pop that over there. I must just reiterate, it's so key that you don't push. You've just got to let the drill do the work in this instance. Right. So we start off and just drill a simple hole in the middle. I'm using a wood bit, by the way, on here, so it's got a little point on the end. Basically, it's going to do a lot of melting, basically, to get through this. So we're going to start off in the middle just by getting the point lined up, basically, and then that. So I'm not pushing, I'm literally letting pretty much just the weight of the drill do it. So you also need to be careful that you don't do the Wallace and Gromit thing or the reverse Wallace and Gromit thing. If you don't keep hold of this thing, it's just going to spin around like a lunatic and it's just going to look completely mad. So as soon as it starts to break through, you're going to need to grab hold of it. So that's the first hole drilled in. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that. You probably can just about. So what we're going to do is put another 4 holes in the bottom of the tray, and that's going to be our adequate drainage. So I'll just get on and do those bits quickly. What you want to make sure as well when you finish drilling is what you'll get is like a little bead of plastic here sticking on the end of the drill. It's not usually very hot, but if you pinch it off quickly, it doesn't glue on. You saw me struggling there before. I let it go cold and it glued itself on. And what that's going to do is it's going to make the drill bit skitter around on the surface of the plastic. So you need to watch out for that. Okay, so what you're going to end up with is basically the 5 holes in that sort of formation. We need to get rid of these little sharp bits of plastic, which is just swarf off the drill basically. So I'll go whip those off now, give it a rinse up, and then we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, so for this next bit, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be preparing some media. So for Bulbophyllum, I was there before, nice moisture retaining mix, nice and loose. They don't have particularly long roots, so we need to bear that in mind. It's going to have a tendency to sprawl more than anything. These guys grow on the wild, or in the wild they stick themselves to the side of trees, so they're quite shallow rooted. We're going to be using some of the sphagnum moss. We're going to be using a little bit of the grove stone here. We're also going to be using a good amount of the bark chips. So what I'll do is I'll go on and open these up, and then I'll talk about the percentages of the percentages I like to use from this form of growing media. Okay, so this is the potting mix I'm going to be using. It's pretty much equal parts, and it's 50% malarkey. I just kind of sort of balance it out basically. So we've got some of the coarse grade bark in here. You can see the quality of this stuff. It's just, there's just so, if I bring it up to the camera so you can see it. I just think there's no discernible difference between this and the stuff like Orchid they sell, you know, or any of the other sort of purpose-made orchid barks. It's fine, it's cheaper. It has got the word Orchid written on it, so everyone can afford it. The sphagnum moss in here, good lump of that in there. I mean, it's a big old lump, and then the grove stone as well, sort of equal parts, maybe slightly less than the amount of bark we've got in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out now and put that in a bowl of water with some rainwater to really, because that will take a little while to soak that up. And then we're going to mix it all up, and then I'll turn you guys back on, and we'll pot the orchid up. Okay, so I'm going to just mix this up. It's going to be a nice and loose sort of mix. Okay, over here I've had the moss soaking for a little while now, so I'm not going to cut it up. What I'm going to do is just hold it over the potting, over the rest of the mix like this, and just string it out into finer bits. Do a couple of handfuls at a time, and then mix it up. Just drop it in there like that, and then make sure we sort of do it mixed in amongst it all. Sort of mix it up, try and get it sort of evenly distributed so it's not all clumped up. Like this. Lovely. The rest in here. It's amazing the amount, it always surprises me how much water this stuff actually holds. Just want to give it a little ring when we take it out of the pot. We don't want it it's much easier to work with a potting media which is kind of damp, or you know, not soaking wet. Right, I'll get all this mixed in because it's going to be boring. Turn you guys off, and when it's all done, we'll come and have a look. Okay, so this is how you want the potting media to look when it's all mixed up. You can see there's a real high percentage of sphagnum moss in there. But we've got lots of that grove stone in there, which is going to be providing, you know, lots of aeration for the media, keeping our orchid roots nice and healthy. I'll just set you guys back a little bit, and we'll start potting up. So you're going to need to grab your grab your tray, your see-through tray that we've drilled our holes in the bottom of, and the first thing we're going to do is just put a very thin layer of the potting media into the tray. Just spread it out. Probably going to need to end up mixing up some more of this stuff. I always underestimate the amount I need. I'm sure most people do as well, or at least some other people do. Just going to work out where the orchid's going to sit. Somewhere like that. It's probably smack bang in the middle. It's going to be great. We need to just bear in mind where it's growing from, because obviously it's going to grow along the rhizome. So the next thing to do is to literally just pop it out of the pot. Have a look at what it's growing in. So this has got lots of sphagnum moss in here. Just going to peel off the worst of this. Don't really need any of this in here. The plant's got a really healthy root system. Looks really nice in here. So we want to just gently tease this out using our fingers. We want to be very careful as well. We don't want to snap any of these roots or damage any unnecessarily, because we're going to use those to really. The plants are going to need those to basically establish itself in the new pot. So we want to be quite careful. This is quite fresh. This is a good looking sphagnum moss. So we don't need to go super over the top about clearing it all out. It gives us a good opportunity as well to check for pests, because obviously this is a plant that was bought not that long ago, so I've sprayed it with neem. It's been in isolation. It's only gone into the greenhouse quite recently. I don't know, but I've used the Orchid provider before in the past, and I've never had any issues. Once everything's had a good dousing with neem, I'm reasonably confident that anything that is on it will have been taken out to some degree, because that stuff's amazing. I can't think its praises enough. I'm just going to tease all these little last bits of sphagnum off. Actually, this is in really good nick, so I don't want to go too crazy and run the risk of actually causing any sort of undue stress to the plant. So I'm just going to get the worst of it out. And we're going to flatten this profile anyway into the new pot. What I tend to do when I do this as well, I like to mound the media up against it, because in my experience is over time it all starts to sort of pack down anyway, so the plant will end up sort of shrinking down and slumping slowly into the new container. I'll just whip all of this out here. All this really enables us to do is to actually makes the plant more pliable, so we're able to sort of manipulate it into the new desired sort of position of the pot. Okay. So after some sort of picking around it very carefully with just my fingers, we've exposed the roots. There's a little bit of a core in here where there's some real fine roots, and it's kind of hard to sort of get the last of the sphagnum moss out of there. But what this is going to allow us to do is it's going to basically allow us to flatten the profile of the roots like this on my hand. So it's going to sit inside our media on the tray a lot better. I'll just pick you up and move you guys over and lower you guys down so you can see, and we'll move on to the next step, which will be sort of potting them in there, holding them in place and getting the media packed in around them. Now the beauty about the hanging wires we're going to use is they're going to actually help to keep the orchid in place, which is going to be really handy. Okay, so now we're able to actually manipulate the plant a little bit. What we're going to do is we're just going to spread, so we're going to start working from one side, and just by using our fingers just to gently tease the roots out to a flatter profile, so we can actually just remember these are quite wiry, so you need to be careful not to snap any of them. So you've got to use super careful fingers. I just want to bring out most of them so they're sort of heading out radially away from the plant. So then we're just holding it in place. I'm going to have to reach in front of the camera. We can start to pack some of our media in and around the orchid. And after only a short period of time, it should start to self-support. We've got to be really careful when we're pushing our media down as well, that we don't push down too hard and cause any damage to those roots. So I can actually turn it around now just gently like this. You can see the roots are presented now sort of laterally rather than going down into a media. If I find, especially Bulbophyllum like this, if you leave them for too long in too much of a deep pot, the roots seem to get to a certain depth, and they sort of, I've ended up with quite a lot of root mortality. So I've unpotted the plant, it's started to look rough, and all the tips of the roots have started to die back. I can only assume this is because of the way, the sort of the depth of the media in which they're growing. Basically never dries out, so it ends up becoming super anaerobic, and the roots just can't handle it, and everything sort of starts to look sort of rough. You notice a sort of sickly appearance to the plant, and then after unpotting, I've discovered that actually it's because a lot of the roots are sort of dying off. But this is going to be a great mix. This plant's going to love this in here. So for once, I don't know if by some form of sort of unplanned miracle, I seem to actually have enough media to fill the whole thing in one go, which is almost unheard of. I always undercalculate, so I'm going to make sure that any sort of little voids we get in here, just lift the plant up gently if we need to, just very gently. Most Bulbophyllums have got really wiry root systems, so you need to be super careful when you apply pressure around the rhizome. You don't snap those off. It doesn't take long for the old moss to start growing over the surface of this media anyway, not in the greenhouse, it's so humid in there. This ends up going like a lovely green colour, and it looks really natural. It looks almost as if they're growing on a mossy rock. Last little bit in there, just to fill him up. And there we go, there we have him. A lot happier. And I suppose the pièce de résistance will be putting the hanger on him. So I'll back you up and we'll just clip the hanger on, nice and simple, and away we go. So this is where your hanger is going to come into handy. And you need to make sure you get the ones with the pretty big jaws that look like that. I've used smaller ones before, and they just won't stick, a bit like the way this camera won't focus at the moment. So these big open jaw ones are the ones you really want. They're really, really good. And they just push over the edge of the pot like that. Just try and get them sort of evenly spaced out into a delta formation. And there you have it. One sort of relatively easy UFO, epiphytic friendly orchid hanging pot tray saucer thing. Super easy, very little effort's gone into making this, very little materials are required for it. And I think it's a great way of presenting the orchid. So the next thing to do, I suppose, is to pot up the little Gomesa and also clear this mess up before I get told off. Okay, so I'm going to be using a very similar mix for the Gomesa because it's epiphytic and there's plenty of sphagnum moss in here for it. It's going to keep it nice and airy. We've got some holes in the side of the pot, which is going to help. I see lots of new growths emerging from it. So a quick and easy way of doing this is to just leave the pot in it like that and fill it up. I usually haven't got to run the risk of disturbing this little plant too much. We'll have a look at what it's growing in. Very similar sort of growing media again. Lots of sphagnum moss with a little bit of bark right at the bottom. So it's going to be a similar sort of mix again. This is super fresh, this material in here, so I'm not even going to strip this out. I'm just going to simply pop it back in the pot like that. In fact, we can actually do it without. We're going to take the plant out, pop him in that old pot there, stick him over to one side, just like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this in here, just pot around it. It just makes it so much easier. We'll start off by putting a little bit of the media in the bottom like that, to the pots at about the top. A little bit too much in there, take some of that out. Right, there we go. So it's flush with the top of the pot like that. And then we're just going to fill that media in around it. Doesn't matter if it goes in the pot. And just keep moving it around and filling in around the sides of the pot. This is just such a quick and easy way of doing it. I think they put in the horticultural trade dropping on. So basically, instead of so if you had like a perennial plant in here in this pot and you didn't want to disturb it too much, you just put it in a bigger pot, fill it in all the way around the side, take this pot out at the end, and then just replace the root ball and the plant that you want to repot straight in the void which is left behind. It's super easy and super simple. Okay, the trick is to get it quite compressed. I mean, we've got holes here, so we need to make sure we're compressing the material, otherwise then it's just going to come spilling out the sides like that. Then all we're going to do is we're just going to take this guy out, we're left with a void, pick up our orchid, shake off any of the excess potting, the bark which is in there, and then all we're going to do is just very carefully tease the roots down inside. I'm just going to pot him up by just placing him down, give him a little push like that, and there we go, we're away, all done and dusted. Nice and simple, nice and easy. Always remember, just take the stick out, move it to the edge, out of the way so it's got some more room to grow, and then just water these guys in, and that's it, bish bash bosh. Okay, so don't forget, once you've potted these orchids up, give them a really good watering. Sometimes I even like to let them soak, so I'll leave them in an inch of water for 2 to 3 hours, so really, because that potting media is essentially dry and it'll take a long time to absorb enough moisture where it'll be a healthy balance of retaining moisture throughout the day. So don't forget to give them a good watering in once you've finished, because we love our orchids and they deserve all the care and attention that we can give them. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I've had a lot of fun making it. So I've shown you how to make the really simple little flying saucers for bulbophyllums. There are lots of other orchids you could put in this as well, but this is how I like to grow my bulbophyllums. They seem to really enjoy it and really flourish in this situation. We've had a look at some of the media as well, some of the ones that I'm currently using. We put on the little Gomesa into one of our orchid-friendly plants that I showed you in the video how to make. So thanks for watching. I've really enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. And remember, if you like these videos, you want to see more, don't forget to give us a like, a thumbs up down below, and if you feel like it, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Okay, so excuse the glare. This is Bulbophyllum